Hello there, and welcome to today's episode of the Easy EdTech Podcast. My name is Monica Burns, and I am so glad that you're here to join me today. If you want to make the most of education technology, aka EdTech, well, you are in the right place. My goal has always been to help make EdTech easier and give you ideas you can try yourself, share with a colleague, or bookmark for later in the school year. Every Tuesday here on the Easy EdTech Podcast, you'll hear stories from my time in the classroom, the work I do now with schools and districts, and my travels to different EdTech events. Get ready for solo episodes where I share some quick tips and stories, and interviews full of practical ideas and stories from new guests each month. If we mention something you'd like to check out, make sure to click the link. You'll find it in the episode description or the summary area where you're listening to this podcast, or you can find every episode and all of the resources we mention by going to classtechtips.com/podcast, or by going to classtechtips.com and just clicking on the Easy EdTech Podcast button at the top of the page. This episode is sponsored by Color Bliss, an AI-powered tool that turns your ideas into custom, printable coloring pages in seconds. Just type a prompt and your page is ready to print. Wendy, a 6th grade teacher, uses Color Bliss during read aloud time. She creates pages based on key scenes from the chapter so her students can color, stay engaged, and bring the story to life. And they love it. Try it free at colorbliss.com and see how it could work in your classroom. That's colorbliss.com. This week's episode is all about the very best tools for educational summer activities. You might listen to this episode as soon as it goes live in April and thinking to yourself, Monica, summer feels very far away. And I get that for sure, but I know that the school year ends in different times in different places. I work with educators in all corners of the country, and their last days of school tend to vary really greatly. When I taught in New York City, our last day was usually the last week of June, which I think is really towards the end of the spectrum there. So I thought if I got this episode out to you in mid-April, then it would give you plenty of time to take a look at the list, make some decisions, and maybe even pull a couple of these into the springtime too. So summer break may be quickly approaching for you, just a few weeks away in May, or it may feel a little far off later in June. So if you are looking to help support students explore new interests, try new things, or even just sharpen their skills in a fun and engaging way, well, I have got you covered in today's episode. We're going to go through a handful of activities that you can recommend to families, try in a summer program, or maybe even use during the school year. Totally your call. Each activity is ready for you to customize and has a tech connection too. So you can certainly make tweaks or changes before sharing maybe one or two as a suggestion in a summer newsletter to families. So one of the greatest things about summertime is that we all have the chance to dive into topics or hobbies or things that we might just not get to over the regular school year. And this is true for students as well. Kids can dive into topics they're passionate about, but might get less time to explore during the traditional school calendar. So whether a child is a budding photographer or an aspiring author or a curious coder, there are tons of summer activities for kids to choose from. So on today's list, I've given you a handful of ideas. I've made tech connections to each of them. That's where those best tech tools in our title for today's episode comes from. But you might have another favorite ed tech tool. And I say this when I host workshops and webinars. If you've got a tool in your tool belt that does the same sort of thing as the tool I recommend, well, focus on the strategy and less on the tool. I like to give tools because we sometimes need them in order to put an idea idea into action. But if you've already got a couple in your tool belt that work well with activities like the ones we'll explore today, then stick with it. Don't worry about using it just because I shared it as an example. So let's get into our list of summer activities for kids that I've paired with the best tech tools for educational summer activities. First up is to create a digital photo journal. So you might encourage families to snap pictures of summer adventures using a Chromebook, iPad, or any mobile device with a camera. You don't have to go far to go on an adventure. That could mean lots of different things. And kids can use graphic design apps or websites like Adobe Express or Canva to create a digital scrapbook with captions and maybe even add in some additional creative elements. I'm a big fan of the Adobe tools. I do some work with the Adobe education team, and if you've been to one of their creativity and institutes in New York City, I might have led that for you. Love working with them, so that's a favorite. But if you already have Canva in your tool belt, that's another one you could go to create a digital photo journal. Next up is to start a video blog. A video blog is a perfect alternative to starting a YouTube channel. You might even use the term vlog with a V instead of blog with a B, particularly if you want to keep kids off of a public online space. A blog or vlog is a great way to do that. Instead of recording something and posting it on YouTube, kids can record short videos. Maybe they're teaching a skill, reviewing a toy or game, or even documenting their summer experiences. iMovie is another one that has some good kid-friendly video editing, particularly if you're on mobile. You might try Clips, so there's a handful to choose from. You can also encourage another activity, which is to become a podcast host. Now, I've been doing this for 6 years, and although it may seem intimidating, it's hopefully not that hard, right? Or as hard as it looks. There's a lot of steps in the process. I have someone who helps edit all the audio so it sounds nice and clear. I have to schedule interviews to make sure someone can join me for those interview episodes. So there's plenty of steps to do. But if your child loves to tell stories, or the kids you work with, right, love to tell stories, and you want to recommend this to families, you can help them plan, record, and even edit their own podcast. So if you're doing this in the classroom, you might use some education-facing tools like Soundtrap EDU or GarageBand. They can help kids record, edit, and share their podcasts. A newer tool that I'm a fan of is Adobe Podcast. It allows you to do some easy editing on your screen. In addition to becoming a podcast host, another creative activity you might want to explore is to design a website. Now, designing a website might seem intimidating, but you can introduce the basics of web design, taking coding out of the equation for now, with a kid-focused or school-focused platform like Google Sites. Kids can create a multi-page website related to an interest or passion project, and another tool with a lot of templates and a simple website builder is Canva. Sometimes Canva just gets a lot of love for the graphic design piece, but they've got a nice website builder built in there too. Another activity you might recommend is to go on a virtual field trip. I love sharing virtual field trips on the blog and the podcast. I recently shared Talking Tours, which is an AI tool, in a blog full of Google-y tools that use AI. And you might have explored posts on my blog like 9 spring virtual field trips, or how virtual field trips can foster curiosity. I'll link out to all that in the show notes. Well, a virtual field trip is a great experience to add to your list of summer activities for kids. You can explore museums, historical sites, even zoos from around the world through virtual tours and live webcams. Now back to creation mode. Another activity is to have kids write an ebook. And one of the tools we put on the list for today's episode is Book Creator. I'm a super fan of Book Creator. I've done some work with their team for a while, hosted webinars, you name it. And young authors or authors of any age can write and illustrate their own digital stories using Book Creator. So if you're looking for free resources and inspiration for summer activities, this is a great place to head to. I have a post all about their March Be an Author Month, and you can gather some ideas from that resource or by just heading to their website. It's really perfect for any time of year, especially if you want to capture some summer stories. Another activity you might add to the list is to learn a new language. Language learning apps like Duolingo for schools make discovering a new language lots of fun and plenty interactive. I featured Duolingo for school on my blog in the past, and there's a handful of other tools, both free and paid, that you might decide to recommend to families who are looking for some summer activities for kids. So we're a little more than halfway through our list so far. We've talked about creating a digital photo journal with Adobe Express or Canva, starting a video blog with iMovie or Clips, becoming a podcast host with Soundtrap, GarageBand, or Adobe Podcast, designing a website with Google Sites or Canva, going on a virtual field trip, maybe using Talking Tours from Google, writing an ebook with Book Creator, and learning a new language with Duolingo for schools. I've got, 3 more for you before we finish up. And next up is composing a piece of music. You can help kids unleash their inner musician with music creation tools like GarageBand or MusicFX. As I mentioned earlier, GarageBand is great for any type of recording, maybe if kids are playing music or recording a podcast. But if kids feel more comfortable describing the type of music they'd like to hear, you might suggest MusicFX to their families. This is a tool in the AI test kitchen of Google. It's not something I'd recommend kids necessarily sign in and try and access, but great for recommending to families. Every month in my AI and education membership, I feature 3 things to try. And MusicFX has been one of my tools to try. It's free and lots of fun and definitely a good choice for a summer activity. Next up is to explore digital art. And you might encourage students to try drawing and illustration apps like Procreate or Sketchbook. If they need a bit more support, you could even introduce AutoDraw, which uses AI to help out, as an option for student sketchers. So you could also suggest that families explore some generative AI tools that help you create images. So exploring digital art could mean a bunch of different things. Last up takes us outdoors again, and this is to track the stars. So if families are looking for summer activities for kids, you might suggest that they download a stargazing app. There are a handful of options, including Skyview and Starwalk, and both can help identify constellations and celestial objects. So plenty of options there, just a couple on our list of things to choose from. So what are you going to suggest to families this summer? There are plenty of directions you can go in. You might not want to send them this whole list, but maybe just pick a few, particularly if you send out a newsletter and just want 1 or 2 things to recommend. If you try any of these summer activities or maybe have another idea, I would love to hear about it. So just reply to any of my weekly newsletters. You can sign up at classtechtips.com/newsletter. Or send me a message on Instagram. You can find me there at Class Tech Tips. So let's make this EdTech easy with some key points from the episode. Encourage creative expression through digital storytelling, podcasting, and video creation. Explore new interests with virtual field trips, web design, and language learning apps. Support hands-on creativity with digital art, music making, and ebook writing. Foster curiosity and discovery with stargazing, photography, and interactive tech tools. Remember, you can find the show notes and the full list of resources from this episode by heading to easyedtechpodcast.com. That's where you'll see all the episodes, including this one, number 315. A big thank you to our sponsor, Color Bliss. Whether you're looking for a creative brain break, a calm activity for early finishers, or a way to bring stories to life through coloring, Color Bliss makes it quick and easy to make custom coloring pages. Get started at colorbliss.com. It's free to try and super easy to use. That's colorbliss.com. Thank you for listening to this new episode of the Easy EdTech Podcast. I love creating new episodes for you each week, but I could use a bit of help spreading the word about the podcast. Can you leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app? Spotify will let you tap on the stars, and Apple Podcasts will let you tap on the stars and leave a 1 or 2 sentence review. Thank you so much for taking this extra step. It helps other educators find episodes like this one when they're searching for EdTech tips.